I'm Ben Gromicko from InterNACHI. I'm in Pennsylvania, and we're going to do a home inspection on this house. So let's start with the roof. So I'm up on the roof, use my ladder. I like to walk up if there's easy access. So I'm up on the roof here, and we've got a defect at the interior flue liner of the chimney stack. The flue liner, terracotta flue liner for the furnace, is cracked, has a hole in it, major defect. And from this vantage point from the roof, I can take a look at sheds and other structures and driveways and overhanging trees, and also the house is on a septic system. And in the front yard, behind me is the front yard, I see actually standing water and a lot of, well, it looks like the septic system has a problem. So there's a low slope roof, almost flat, a section right behind me here, and there's asphalt shingles being used, but no consideration for the slope of the roof, which is nearly flat. There's just underlayment underneath. It's not even doubled up. So this is a major problem here. And where this wall, which is covered by shingles, meets the roof surface, there is no flashing. And I don't see step flashing or counter flashing. And there's a lot of silicone and sealant and roofing tar applied in this area. So this is unreliable. Just like the flat roof is unreliable due to installation errors. And the top of the chimney is masonry, and it's cracked and needs to be repaired. Another defect. And from the roof I can see that the gutters are filled with debris. From the outside, this area where the kick-out flashing was kind of homemade and installed improperly. The outside doesn't look very good. I'm going to take a look on the inside. Above this window, I can see some deformation on the header of this window. And maybe there's a lot of water problems. I'll get out my moisture meter and my infrared and take a look. But I'm a little concerned about how water comes down here and it isn't kicked in to the gutter, but maybe hits this area here and maybe causing problems on the inside of the wall cavity near this window on the inside. So walking around the exterior, I noticed that the grading around the house, particularly in the back and in the front, is negative. There's a lot of water ponding and puddling up right in front of the house. So I'm going to take a look at how the overflowing gutters, because they're filled with debris, they're not functioning well, and the negative grading could be affecting the basement. And this is Pennsylvania, so the climate is very wet and rainy, and when it rains, a lot of hundreds to thousands of gallons of water can dump right next to a house foundation, and we don't want that. And there's that settlement and a trip hazard here. And some settlement of the walks. So on the back side of the house, the grading is pretty flat, neutral, isn't very sloped like I would love to see it. The hard surface isn't sloped very well. It's barely sloped away, and the gutters above are filled with debris. And so I'm still concerned with water penetrating the basement. So we'll take a look on how the grading around the house may be affecting water intrusion problems. And on the back of the house, we have a deck, a wooden deck, and the condition of the deck, from what I see above, is so poor that I'm not going to walk on it. I'm going to try to take a look from underneath, and I'm going to advise others not to walk on it. So that's a material defect. Could hurt someone. So here's the deck again, and you can see by the floorboards and the structure itself that it's just not safe to walk on. And the railing is falling apart. I just don't think the structure is reliable. So this is a major defect. The floor structure is actually sloped and falling away on this side of the house. I don't think it was designed that way. I think the floor structure is actually failing. And the floorboards are starting to curl and buckle. It looks like that's a hatch. I think that's an access to this hot tub unit, which itself is in very poor condition. Looks like it hasn't been maintained for many years. You may not be able to see, but it's actually leaning and tilting. So this is another major problem. I'm unfortunately unable to get near the slider door to inspect for flashing areas, but it looks like the deck itself is almost as high as the bedroom floor. It looks like the slider goes into a bedroom. And so I'm not sure about any of this, because it is an inspection restriction. I won't be able to get to it all. and I can't get underneath to look at the structure because it's just on the ground or near the ground. So a few minutes in to the inspection, and I've shifted gears a little bit. So I'm not even going to look at the cosmetic things. Now I'm looking at the major structural problems, things that can hurt people, safety issues, major things where we need a contractor to fix things. So here's a carport, and it's not built very well. It wobbles and shakes, and the load-bearing posts are rotten on the bottom, and I don't want anybody to actually park their car underneath it. So this takes some experience when you have to shift your home inspection from looking at everything and including the minor things or even cosmetic things. Now we're really focused on major structural issues and things, safety hazards and things that can hurt people. So this is one of those things. It's just not safe, this carport. There's no diagonal bracing to shore up and secure this structure, and I can move the structure by hand easily with one hand, and there's major wood rot on these structural load-bearing columns and posts, and it looks like the backside of this roof structure has totally fallen off or just wasn't built very well. So I don't want anybody using this. So walking from the carport there to the front yard, and you kind of smell the septic system that's failing. And here's some evidence of the field breaking out and failing right here. So this is very wet, lush vegetation, thick, muddy grass, and an odor that indicates that the septic system is failing, the field at least. So walking around the house, septic system is behind me, and I see some issues with grading on this side of the house, the right side of the house. So behind me is a downspout that comes and just actually ends before it gets to the corner and just dumps water there, and that collects at least half of the rear of the house roof water, and dense vegetation, so I really can't see everything. It looks like I have a propane regulator pipe coming out of the ground, but I don't see a tank. I think the line then goes into the house that way. But if the tank was removed, or is it buried? I'm not sure. So if it was removed, no need to have the regulator just sitting here. And if it is buried, that needs fixing. It's very loose here, and I just don't understand what's going on, and it's okay that I don't understand what's going on. My job is to essentially find problems and make a recommendation for further investigation and correction. So above me, again, right there is a gutter with some trees in it, so that's no good. And who knows where the water is going, but you can see that downspout here, it just ends right there. So we have water coming down here. And then remember that deck in the back? Well, here's access to a little bit underneath it. And remember it fell? This side was falling, and I can see why. It looks like it has detached itself from the house, if it even was detached. It's somewhat self-sustaining, but there's structural issues underneath. And, well, I'll take a closer look. Let's see what's going on. And this is also a case where you have to stay safe. So I'm not going to go fully in, but it looks like this component has pulled away from the house. I can see the fastener there, and I'm not sure about the bottom there. And then looks like there's a door that goes around and into a basement slider door, but you can see displacement and settlement here. So there's a large separation there, and then it's tight there. So something has settled, like this has settled, and it has cracked here, and I can see that the door frame is out of square, and there's that hot tub and pump and electrical work. Doesn't look very good. And then there's supports there, concrete supports, and you can just tell how the water is just eroding away the structural support of everything underneath the deck. And there's a wire hanging here. Let's see what I got. No, that's good. So it's not live, so that's good. I don't know where it goes. But again, there's only so much I can do. The deck is not safe anyways. And then there's a slider door. And it's all mud here. So if that's the basement floor, slider door, and this is filled with mud, water was probably up higher. I don't see a water line, but it's probably been flooded in the past. So all of this will be major defects identified in my inspection report. Yeah, so during a home inspection, you don't want to endanger yourself. Just go in, find the problems, identify them, document them. No need to get hurt doing a home inspection. So along the driveway, here's a retaining wall. Concrete masonry units, maybe interlocked with pins or pegs or something, but it's starting to slide out and fall away. Looks like there's some pressure behind this area here. Water pressure pushing. And here's the metal shed, and I'm going to not inspect this shed here because of the inspection restrictions. So my client knows that this is not part of my home inspection. But I did see, actually, walking in very quickly, some, looks like evidence of wood destroying organisms, maybe some carpenter bee, carpenter ant. So we'll take a look at that. And that's in here, maybe coming up from up there. So WDO, evidence of WDO. So here we are at the front door. And remember, my home inspection service has now shifted to major things. So I'm actually not going to document these details here where the flashing or the detail around the light fixture is missing. There's a crack, settlement crack here. The door itself is weathered. There's a live electric line there. There's a trip hazard here. There's an actual missing vent, dryer vent there. And there's a cracked window there. And these are all major problems. But for this house, I think we're going to shift to material defects. I will document them. I'll put them in the report, but they're certainly not going to, the missing dryer hood, for example, is not going to be in the summary. I'm looking for major things now. So on the right side of the house, I saw some propane lines, but here's oil fill and vent pipe for an oil storage tank. So maybe we have that oil furnace, and I can't get to it, but the chimney has a major material defect, has that crack in it. So if that's the heating system, fuel supply, then the chimney stack, which is up there, is being used probably by a boiler, and the flue needs to be fixed. So just like the metal shed at the end of the driveway is an inspection restriction, and it's not part of the home inspection. Here's another inspection restriction. The garage itself has an RV blocking a car, and there's no electricity to the garage. So it could be just a simple breaker, but I see some wires hanging and a lot of extension cords. So that's a good indication that there's something going on with electricity, and the inspection restriction is numerous. I really can't see anything. But the one thing that I'm concerned about is the firewall. So I see that there's open seams and places for firewall compromise in many areas. This is the shared wall, rear wall of the garage, and the house is over there. There should be a nice firewall. And also the ceiling itself is opened up. So a lot of problems inside the garage, inspection restrictions, but I can identify a couple of the major problems: electrical and firewall breach compromise. That'll be in my report. Unable to test a garage door opener, but I've never seen one open up like this before. That's one of the laser sensors of the garage door. And on this side of the sensor, we have another extension cord, and it's going outside. So extension cords lying about. Garage door doesn't open and close. We have carpeting actually in the garage, firewall compromise, and a lot of extension cords, and dead electricity. And here is a trip hazard. 2, actually, a very high step at the exterior door from the garage. And this is not safe here. And there's some electrical things going on there. Some live wires hanging out, some open boxes, some wires there, three wire, a lot of extension cords. All right, so I'm down in the electrical panel area of the basement. So I'm down in the basement, did the exterior roof and other structures, and behind me is the 200 amp electrical panel, square D. It looks okay. No breakers are labeled very well, and I don't see any AFCIs or GFCIs, so I'll take a look. It's an older house. I'm expecting some GFCIs in kitchen and bathroom exterior, maybe the garage. That's what's going on in the garage. No AFCIs. So it might be a good idea to pop a few in and protect some circuits. And then this is where the front left corner of the house. So I totally missed the electric meter on the outside. I was wondering what was going on. That's an inspection restriction. That's okay. It must be buried under some of that dense vegetation that we saw previously. So the meter's on the outside of the house. I'll take a second stab at it to see if I can find it and see what else is going on. But that's the electrical breaker panel down here. And the rest of the basement, some circuits are off. There's very little lighting, and but we'll take a look around. So I'm in the basement, and it's moldy and it's wet, and you can smell that and you can feel that. So use your senses when you're doing a home inspection. My client does not need a mold inspection. There's mold, and it's not very healthy. I've got my mask ready to go. I just wanted to talk to you without my mask on, and I'm going to take a look around at the major structural issues, and I think there's going to be some. There's major wood rot, major water intrusion, mold growth, and I keep seeing poor workmanship, bad installation, safety hazards with the electrical. That's why it's so dark down here. Hardly anything is on. And so I'm going to be very quick. Again, I do not want to risk my health just to do a home inspection when there's so many obvious major problems.
All right, so the floor is wet. So I'm not going to touch the electrical panel or any electrical components. And the flooring is just gone. And there's actually water puddles in some areas. And there's signs of active water penetration. We saw that on the outside. We kind of assumed what the condition might be on the inside, but it's worse than you think. And they've obviously had major water penetration come through. They've had some deconstruction, but they never fixed any of the problems. So this basement probably has flooded in the past. So I'm going to put that in my report. The problem isn't just the flooding, it's now mold and structural issues. So here's active water penetration. This is the front of the house. That's wet and damaged. Remember the oil storage tank? It's metal, steel legs, and they're rusted on the bottom. So that's a big problem. So in the basement, we have an oil-fired boiler. And a boiler is basically a box. Could be cast iron or metal filled with water, and then we heat up that water and circulate it through the house. This house has baseboards and zones, so there's multiple thermostats in the house. The tank we already saw has problems with the rusted legs, and the condition is poor. The oil is drawn in to the burner. It sucks it, sprays it, atomizes it, ignites it, and shoots flames, a torch, inside this chamber, heats up the water. When it gets to a certain temperature on that gauge and that limit switch there, it circulates the water with a pump, which is there on the top, and will circulate that hot water throughout the house in the wintertime. Now, in the summertime, it turns on as well. This is where the hot water source to all the fixtures in the house are. So water comes in, it gets heated up by a coil, and actually, this isn't a coil. There's a direct coil here, but it's not being used. So what's actually happening is hot water is going through a coil over here in a storage tank. There's a big storage tank water from the boiler gets coiled in and it heats up the surrounding water, and that surrounding water is the hot water supply to the house. So you can see a cold water coming in, cold water going out. I see a temperature relief valve. The boiler itself is not very old. It's relatively new. The components look good. It's not leaking. It's been recently serviced and cleaned. There's the draft damper and the flue pipe going up to the chimney stack. Chimney stack has a hole and a crack in an interior flue liner near the top of the chimney stack. There's a bunch of zones here with zone valves. 4 zones, it looks like, but one is disconnected, obviously, right here. So there should be 4 thermostats or 3 thermostats. I'm not sure. I'll take a look. None of them are on. That's good. That's good. Oh, this one. This one is on. So this zone actually is for that hot water tank. So that makes sense. Okay, so the boiler's in good condition, hot water tank, but the temperature of the water to all the fixtures is scalding hot, so that's a safety issue. It needs to be tempered. There needs to be a tempering valve in between a cold supply line and the hot water source coming out in order to temper or control the water to the fixtures. It's scalding hot. At the kitchen, it's just out of this world. So that's a safety issue. Done with the heating system and water source. Let's take a look at some other things of the house in the basement. So down in the basement, remember that slider door underneath the deck? Looked like there was a lot of water intrusion. Well, there is. So there's, on the inside of the basement, you can see here that there's a sump pump, and it's not professionally installed. There's a lot of problems with water in the house. Turns out that the sump pump discharges into a tub, a bucket underneath the laundry, which discharges outside. So the laundry discharges outside. So that's plumbing defects. There's a sump pump. They're just trying to control the immense amount of water that comes into the basement. This is unreliable. The sump pump looks new, actually, the motor itself, but this is just unreliable. So there's a lot of water problems. There's the discharge. It actually goes along here and into a bucket underneath the laundry tub sink, and then that bucket has a sump pump and it discharges outside. And there's the clothes washer and dryer. We have a problem with the dryer vent pipe up there, but all of that looks really clogged, so that's a defect. And the structure of the house, poured concrete foundation walls, they're wet. I don't see any major structural damage, but the interior obviously has had water problems, and they've done some removal of some water damage, but they're not done yet. So a lot of water problems in the basement, and mold, and active mold growth, and active water penetration. Here's signs of mold right there and there. So I couldn't find the wellhead on the outside, but it looks like it's in the rear yard. And the components of the well are fairly new, and it seems to be working. We've got water flowing in the house. The pressure tank is there. The pressure gauge is there. There's a shutoff valve. There used to be some water softening and some filtering systems, but they've been cut off, and the filters need to be replaced. There's some kind of UV light fixture there. It doesn't work. But the well is in here, rear corner of the basement, and I can see the water line going to the rear yard, but I can't find the wellhead. Just like the electrical meter. I can't find the electrical meter. We have some active plumbing leaks coming from some fixtures above. The bathroom is actively leaking. It's dripping right now. I want to stay out of the way. So we need a plumber here. These fixtures here, there's one actively leaking right there above my head. Coming from something, looks like a toilet. There's another problem here with the structure, the wooden structure. This floor joist has been cut severely in order to get a piece of drain pipe in there, and then this is a toilet, turns out, and it's major wood rot there. So we have major water problems, water leaks coming from fixtures in the sewer lines, and it's actively dripping. So there's that. That's dripping. And then you can see that that's a toilet that's actually going to there, and it's been cut right there. The joist itself, sorry, you can't really see it, but here's the floor joist itself, and it's been cut through, and you can see the wood rot coming from the toilet itself. Now this joist also is sagging. It's about, I use my level, it's about 3/4 of an inch down, it's sagging because of this cut and the wood rot caused by the plumbing leak coming from the toilet. So, electrical, structural, water problems, mold, plumbing leaks, just a lot going on down here. So I'm going to try to wrap up the interior of the house quickly and produce a report for my client that's useful.
So I'm going to wrap up the inspection pretty quickly on the interior. I'm just going to do it real quick. But this is the attic access door to the attic. So there's the attic there. And it's just in a regular interior door. So there's a lot of energy issues. Again, electrical problems, more electrical issues here. The light fixture is a pull chain, and it's not very safe and secure to the ceiling, and there's missing smoke detectors up here, and there's a missing handrail at the stairs going down the stairs. So a few things on the interior that need to be fixed. There's no central air, and this is the only air conditioning in the house. In this bedroom, a window air conditioner. And every bathroom is about the same. I'll run hot and cold water at the sink and flush the toilet and turn on the shower and make sure everything works all at the same time. We saw a defect with this toilet from below. We saw that there's a water leak and some structural damage, and so this is actually a toilet that is not secure to the floor. It's leaking, and you can tell by the way it's oriented, it's not level. So the floor is not level around the toilet, and that's because of water damage and structural problems. And there isn't any cold water at this sink, and the door itself shows settlement. So the bathroom door is off square, and that's because of the settlement of the floor structure underneath, and that's caused by the water problems down in the basement. So we have a few things that are major in the house. So on the interior, I'll open and close windows and doors, and representative number of windows and some receptacles. And here's one of those thermostats from the boiler that we were talking about with the zones. This door won't close, and some of the doors, a lot of the doors won't close. I think it's because of the structural problems. There's settlement of the structure of the house, and the doors won't close. And space between the spindles is large enough for a child to fall through. Safety hazard. So every kitchen inspection is just about the same. I run hot and cold water at the kitchen sink. I turn on the dishwasher, stove, oven, and check for problems. There is a problem with GFCIs. There aren't any GFCIs, so I do a little X on that. And there's a live electrical line underneath the kitchen sink. That's not good. And you can tell the house is under some settlement because the kitchen cabinet wall cabinets have a large open gap at that one edge. So that's one of the main reasons why we perform a home inspection. Not every home has major problems, but some do. So a home inspection should be part of a homeowner's routine home maintenance plan to keep things in good shape. And if you're buying a home, you should get a home inspection. That's critical. Well, I hope you enjoyed the home inspection training video. We just performed a home inspection on this home in Pennsylvania. My name is Ben Gromicko. I'm from InterNACHI. That's the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors. And I'll see you at the next home inspection.